We chat now about a moment in an interview that pissed off, understandably, the entire world, our allies, I should say, more specifically, and gives you a sense of Trump's even very recent history illiteracy. And this is him talking about, well, he's hostile against NATO, and he's been saying NATO needs to get on board with supporting us having Greenland because we would be there for NATO, but NATO's not there for us. But if you remember, the only time Article 5 has ever been invoked was for us after 9/11, and our allies did come to our assistance. That's the only time. And Trump here erases that.
I think, but I've always said, will they be there if we ever needed them? And that's really,
they were
really the ultimate test, and I'm not sure of that. I know that we would have been there, or we would be there, but will they be there? And let's hope that that never happens. We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that, and they did. They stayed a little back, little off the front lines, but we've been very good to Europe and to many other countries. And, you know, now under my administration, that began because we had a very successful first term.
So just to give you a sense of the reactions, here's one person who clipped that saying, "This is completely unforgivable. How insulting can you be? The man should hang his head in eternal shame." And that's like lower his head, not the thing about the thing, is what that phrase, just to be clear, it sounded a little, but then you have the Prime Minister of the UK, Starmer, here. While you watch this, by the way, please do click the subscribe button if you appreciate the show. Very simple, very free, completely free even, and it makes a big difference.
I'm paying tribute to the 457 of our armed services who lost their lives in Afghanistan. I will never forget their courage, their bravery, and the sacrifice that they made for their country. There are many also who were injured, some with life-changing injuries. And so I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured, and in fact, across the country.
As well as politicians expressing a view, a lot of the relatives, some bereaved, others whose sons in particular suffered dreadful injuries. One is Diane Durney, mother of a man called Ben Parkinson, dreadful injuries. She has said that you need to be tougher with President Trump and demand an apology from him. Will you call for an apology from the President?
Well, I've made my position clear, and what I say to Diane is if I had misspoken in that way or said those words, I would certainly apologise, and I'd apologise to her.
This is becoming a bit of a habit now. You're having to distance yourself and criticise the President. It's about third or fourth time in this week. Are you getting a bit exasperated by some of the things President Trump says? We
have a very close relationship with the US, and that is important for our security, for our defence and our intelligence, and it's very important we maintain that.
Sorry, so important, absolutely true. This next up says croaking Trump.
We're building a golden dome.
What?
That's going to, just by its very nature.
Does croaking? What? So I'm getting so distracted. Take that down. Croaking, doesn't that mean dying? Make it deep. Oh no. Like yeah, it could mean die, but I think they meant like one of them was die. One of the definitions was die. So I was right, but I guess they probably meant it in the having a hoarse voice because he did kind of hoarse. I was like, surely they're not reporting on him dying. That feels like a weird thing to just casually slip in. Now, Trump has this habit of over and over and over when people say like, I hope that he misspoke. He didn't. He believes this. He believes that we've never benefited from our alliances. Insane. He believes that there's no reason for us to have these relationships. Insane. And then he doesn't understand history enough to inform himself on when those alliances have been so important, like NATO coming to our defense after 9/11. And I just quickly on ChatGPT looked up rough numbers, 1,160 non-U.S. coalition military deaths occurred in Afghanistan, fighting alongside American forces. Across all post-9/11 conflicts, more than 12,000 allied military and police deaths have been documented in addition to U.S. casualties. So he's just ignoring the lives of people who lost their life alongside Americans. So you can imagine why people are so repulsed, and this is why Zelensky is having this message on the world stage to Europe.
And here in Europe, we are advised not to mention tomahawks. Not to mention tomahawks to the Americans, not to spoil the mood. And we are told not to bring up Taurus missiles. When the subject is Turkey, diplomats say don't offend Greece. When it's Greece, they say be careful with Turkey. In Europe, there are endless internal arguments and things left unsaid that stop Europe from uniting and speaking honestly enough to find real solutions. And too often, Europeans turn against each other, leaders, parties, movements, and communities, instead of standing together to stop Russia, which brings the same destruction to everyone. Instead of becoming a truly global power, Europe remains a beautiful but fragmented kaleidoscope of small and middle powers. Instead of taking the lead in defending freedom worldwide, especially when America's focus shifts elsewhere, Europe looks lost, trying to convince the US president to change. But he will not change.
Yeah, so the thing is, you kind of are going to have to figure out, and it's heartbreaking to say, but what your countries look like when you no longer can rely on the United States because of Trump being so erratic. And that's bad, and that's going to be hurtful to the United States and hurtful to the world. But he's calling upon them to unite as European countries in a more powerful way, instead of what a lot of world leaders, and Newsom was calling a lot of them out for this, are doing, which is just kind of hoping surely tomorrow's the day that Trump wakes up and wants to be more presidential. It's not going to happen. And that can't be what your long-term plan is. It's just maybe Trump will be presidential, or he'll quote-unquote croak. That can't be the plan for these nations. Obviously, he's talking about the invasion. Putin is once again meeting with U.S. I think Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. Maybe this will be the meeting that after Witkoff says it went so well, that actually makes a difference.
All right, today the first trilateral talks between Ukraine, Russia, and the U.S. are being held in the United Arab Emirates. They're expected to continue tomorrow as well. The U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner arriving in Moscow Thursday following their trip to Switzerland.
So, of course, I'm always hopeful that diplomacy can make a difference. I'm also, once again, irked by Steve Witkoff being such a weird fangirl. You can always see it in his face. He's like, Vladimir, I'm so excited to be here again. Such a nice building. And he's previously been quoted as saying he just likes him. He likes the guy. He likes Vladimir. So, we'll stay up to date on that.